This is the worst case scenario for Donald Trump's birthday. Gnats, mosquitoes, thunderstorms, algae reappearing in the reflecting pool, Donald Trump turning 80 and cognitively, physically declining, Donald Trump humiliated in front of the world as Iran calls checkmate, Donald Trump's party turning against him, and it gets worse from there. Just wait until the thunderstorms, mosquito swarms, and gnats hit that UFC fight, which is already an utter disaster. Have you seen how ugly the stage looks? It looks like a junkyard, a Six Flag out of some dystopian zombie movie with endorsement ads, monster this and crypto that, completely defacing the White House. But then you move closer to Donald Trump's most important project, right? The reflecting pool. How long have we heard, I'm going to paint it American flag blue, and that's going to fix it? I don't know. You may want to learn some basic facts about the filtration system and the underlying cause of the algae, where they moved away from the drinking water to preserve water, and they started bringing in some water from the local basin of the Potomac, which is a source of algae. And given the low levels of water in the reflecting pool, combined with the heat, combined with the source being the Potomac, and the filtration system just unable to handle the quantity of water, that causes algae. And by painting it blue, you may be creating a situation where there's more algae. So in the past 24 hours, so much algae. And we knew this was going to happen. I mean, I've been saying there's going to be a lot of algae. This isn't going to fix it by painting the bottom blue. That isn't addressing the underlying issue. But isn't that just so demonstrative of Donald Trump as the scam artist real estate guy who's just like, here's how I fix it. You just paint over it instead of systemically addressing what the real situation is. I thought it might take a few weeks before the algae returned. Boom, 24 hours, algae infestation. And when you take and by the way, the more lies from the Trump regime, they go, that's just like the recurrent algae from the previous situation. So this was expected. When we would refill it with water, the algae would come back. Why? Why would that be? You drained it. Now you're bringing the water supply back in, which is sourced from the Potomac. It's not recurring algae. It's the algae that's going to, I guess it's recurring in the sense that that's what's going to keep coming back over and over again. And there's nothing you're going to do to stop it. And painting the bottom blue is going to demonstrate the algae even more right now. And so CNN and Washington Post, they were able to photograph the algae removal taking place because Donald Trump is so utterly embarrassed about that. I'll show you more video, but we'll play some B-roll right there for you. And then, of course, there's the story that surfaced about Donald Trump needing to see 22 medical specialists for his last so-called physical. 22. Why? In my opinion, because he's rapidly cognitively and physically declining. And Donald, you're hitting that age where Fred went downhill fast. And he kind of exhibited the same kind of symptoms that you're seeing, Donald. Also, Donald Trump getting checkmated on his birthday. He will remember this weekend as the moment where he finally said, enough, Iran defeated me in these negotiations. And the United States is saying, I mean, again, this could change rapidly because Donald Trump's a psychopath. But Donald Trump's been now saying, all right, it's over. We're returning home. And now Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran is stronger than ever in the region, dealing bilaterally with the European Union and the UAE. And Trump has caused America its security umbrella in the area. Should we just go? Let's just bring out some additional receipts right here and go through some of the data. As I said, the karma Donald Trump deserves. There's about a 70-80% chance of some form of rain on Sunday. There's thunderstorms that are expected. This was a big fear of Dana White. Joe Rogan said this should never be outside. As I've been saying, you realize that Washington, D.C., June, hot, humid, mosquitoes, gnats are going to have an event where the fighters have their shirts off. They're going to get eaten alive by these mosquitoes. The fans are going to be thinking that it's terrible. So there's storms taking place, in the past 24 hours or so. Storms ripping through D.C. This is what it may look like this weekend. Here's how Axios describes it. Trump's UFC fight faces a tough opponent. D.C. heat, humidity, and bugs. Before fists fly at Trump's UFC fight, swarms of winged insects are likely headed to the White House lawn. Mother Nature is emerging as the night's biggest wild card. Dana White recently told The Hollywood Reporter his biggest fears for this event: rain, lightning, and a ton of bugs. White said that he encountered a, quote, holy shit level of gnats during a recent visit. A rat, there are rats there. Gnats and rats, I'm sure. A gnat infestation at the White House. Great job, Donald Trump, for that. Capitol Weather is forecasting temperatures in the mid-90s for Trump's birthday. Possibility of late-day thunderstorms that could affect the 8 p.m. main card. Thunder and lightning. University of Maryland entomologist Michael Raup says there's a 100% chance of mosquitoes and gnats, and that bugs will be joining. Mayflies emerging from the Potomac, which is also the basin there is where the reflecting pool gets its water and hence the algae. Stoneflies, caddisflies, winged beetles, a whole cadre of night flying moths swarming all over the White House, biting black flies, bats, mosquitoes attracted to sweaty humans, and all of those lights from that claw thing that Donald Trump has. And then we move towards the Potomac. The reflecting pool. Look at what the reflecting pool looks like now. This was $14 million. And there's more algae than ever, or a lot of algae. The reflecting pool on the National Mall has been refilled. This is the overhead view. Take a look what it looked like in 2022. This is what it looks like in 2026 from above. This is what $14 million was spent on. And then Kit Mayer, she posted 4 different videos of the algae right there. Algae cleanup at the reflecting pool this morning. Interior Department says it's residual algae from the supply lines, which have been sitting dormant for 8 weeks. It's part of the normal startup process. We are removing the algae, and the nano bubblers will maintain the pool and will keep it algae free. Yeah, the nano bubblers. Turn on the nano bubbler. It's not going to keep it algae free. Do some basic science here. Okay. What's the source still? Have you changed the source? Okay, so as far as we know, you haven't upgraded the filtration system significantly. And all of this, the big algae problem, there's problems before, but it really began in 2012 because there was a concern that water was being wasted by using DC's water source, the drinking water, and putting that into the reflecting pool. There was a decision, whether you like it or not, that was the decision, because I think former President Obama was focused on getting us out of George W. Bush's Great Recession. And so it was I got to make the reflecting pool amazing. And so one of the things that was, they figured out is okay, let's try to use the Potomac water and we'll fill the Potomac water up. But the problem is that led to the algae. And no matter how good the filtration system was, and they put tens of millions of dollars into a filtration system, if you study algae, it's pesky and it grows. And so, it gets through. And then it grows and it expands and it spreads. The Trump regime goes, it's just residual. It's just residual. Okay, guys, just like you control the Strait of Hormuz, I totally get it. Now, what else is surfacing on Donald Trump's birthday? Situation Room scrambles over sick Trump fetish claim that has now been revealed. So a new New York Times expose by Maggie Haberman, who just gets under Donald Trump's skin with these big expose pieces, talking about how the White House would hold all of these Situation Room meetings about the emails where Epstein survivors and victims and others were saying how, that Donald Trump has nipple fetishes, all of these things, and that and J.D. Vance, but this is a big deal. And how the White House wanted to cover all it up. And they talked about the plot for Ghislaine Maxwell and how Todd Blanche ended up interviewing Ghislaine Maxwell, and J.D. Vance wanted Ghislaine Maxwell to meet with Tucker Carlson. You know what else is going up at the White House that's going to make Donald Trump a little angry? You know what's going up? Looks like some people were doing an 86-47 on the Washington Mall. So just think about the scene right here. You've got an algae-infested reflecting pool, and then a group of people were doing an 86-47 sign on the Washington Mall grass. They ended up getting caught, so they had to stop, but you can see overhead what they were doing. Man, people despise Donald Trump. At the annual wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington National Ceremony, honoring women who served in the military, it had to be canceled because military branches revolted. They declined to participate, citing the Pentagon and White House restrictions on DEI-related functions and the fact that the Trump regime's not promoting women to leadership positions in the military anymore. I gotta give you this. Julie K. Brown's article, Nipplegate, How Trump and Government Scramble to Cover Up the Epstein Files. Happy birthday, Donald. Again, this is such the karma that he deserves. You have Senator Cornyn of Texas, who Donald Trump endorsed his opponent, the MAGA Republican, most corrupt guy on par with Trump corruption, Ken Paxton. After Senate loss, Senator Cornyn predicts miserable final 2 years for Trump. He's going to have the most miserable, worst 2 years of his life in the last 2 terms. He's going to lose big in November. It's going to be a disaster, and his life is going to be ruined, Senator Cornyn says. Meanwhile, Politico reports knives are out inside the White House. Interview with Trump allies, GOP Senate aides, and people close to the White House reveal a president increasingly frustrated with everyone, from his own team to the Senate. A MAGA world operative close to the White House told Playbook he's pissed, and people are not recognizing the level of piss that he is, the operative said, pointing to Senate Republicans' opposition to Trump's anti-weaponization fund, White House ballroom funding, and resistance to firing the parliamentarian as the fuel for Trump's resentment. He does not like being put in a box, the operative said. When you put him in a box, Trump's going to blow up the box. Well, we see him right now blowing up something. It ain't looking good. This is how University of Chicago renowned professor John Mearsheimer referred to Donald Trump's retreat in the Strait of Hormuz, with Trump announcing a deal, I should say a surrender. Let's play this clip.
The point is that we're checkmated, and Trump fully understands that. And he also has to understand that he's got to shut this thing down. This just can't keep going on for economic reasons.
And then you just have Trump's cabinet making an utter fool of themselves. Take a look right here as Pete Hegseth was doing bench pressing. And as AJ Perez says, someone knew going in that Hegseth needed some help. So they put down bumpers on each side of the bench, and he didn't use them. So we got a bunch of alligator reps, and that was called out as somebody yelled, all the way down, all the way up. Hope that hero remains at the Department of Defense. 19 Republicans voted against the Trump regime's demand that FISA Section 702 be extended. 19 revolting against Donald Trump. Tucker Carlson said that Donald Trump is the worst negotiator ever. Here's what Tucker Carlson said. Here, play this clip.
But that would be to minimize the profound nature of this moment. What we're really learning is not simply that Trump is a spotty commander-in-chief and certainly no diplomat and obviously not a deal maker. If you announce a deal 38 times and it doesn't materialize, you're not a deal maker. What we're beginning to understand, unfortunately for the rest of us, are not just the limits of Trump, but the limits of American power.
And then Trump had 22 medical specialists assess him. It's been uncovered as part of his last checkup, as he's physically and cognitively declining before our eyes. Also, Donald Trump tried to retaliate. Well, not retaliate. He attacked a world-renowned Somalian ref, Omar Artan, because he's Somalian and Trump's a racist and despicable human. So he banned Omar Artan from being a referee. Guess what? Omar Artan is the superstar of the World Cup right now, a world hero who wasn't even able to participate in the World Cup because of Trump's dastardly and despicable ways. Omar Artan getting a hero's welcome in Somalia. The people of Somalia showing such incredible resilience and pride in the face of Donald Trump's relentless attacks, and Omar Artan saying, "I'm deeply grateful for the overwhelming support, encouragement, and kind messages I've received from people around the world. Your solidarity has reminded me that football unites us beyond borders. Thank you to everyone." Donald Trump getting the karma he deserves on his birthday, the worst birthday ever, 80 years old. Always remember that one, Donald.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.